All right, folks, welcome back to the Italian Sports Guys Talk Show.
Benvenuti.
Let's talk, Kyle, a little bit about the teams that were knocked out of the playoffs last week and what do they need to do in the offseason and maybe philosophically to turn things around. Atlanta, disappointing season. Atlanta gets the first seed. They won a lot of close ball games this year, ended up 13-3, but again, one and done in the playoffs. Do they need to change their styles or just a matter of getting key players to fill that system?
I don't know, Craig. I mean, there's a lot of questions to be answered up there. I mean, they were steamrolling all the way through.
Yeah.
They kind of hanging their hat on the fact that they don't really lose at home and how good and how tough Matty Ryan is to beat at home. And two of their last three games at home this year they lost. The win was against the lowly Carolina Panthers. So
yeah,
there's
let
a
me
lot
say
of
this too
questions.
also. The Saints, there was a mystique about this team at home because they won so many tough close ball games. A tough one against San Francisco they pulled out. And the Saints really took away some of that home stadium mojo in that Monday night ball game, knocking off Atlanta late in the season.
I think it showed going into playoffs that they were at least not untouchable at home. And I think Green Bay really took advantage of that. So, they do questions to answer there. I thought they made the wrong call coaching-wise when they kind of got away from the run game early on. Green Bay was doing a good job of stopping it, but you got to keep them honest. And and their secondary is taking a beating locally in the Atlanta area. So
yeah. Now Seattle, of course, a 7-9 team. So to say they were disappointing is not really the case. I mean, they won one game and got to the divisional round. What about the question mark here really is Hasselbeck. He was fantastic in that game against the Saints and still great when he's healthy. But how long do you stick with this guy who's in one week and out the other?
I don't know. I mean, he's getting up there in age, Craig. He's in his almost in his mid-30s now, I believe. And when you have something like that going on, I think it's time with a new coach. I think they're going to try and go in a different direction. I don't know if Charlie Whitehurst is the answer, but I thought Pete Carroll was heaping praise on Hasselbeck after he beat the Saints, and I think that that was kind of his sort of thank you so much for such a wonderful job. Don't let the door hit you on the way out. So
well, he did say getting him back in is a priority for this team, but certainly they have to look to the future. At least a young guy they can mentor who is really going to be the future of the franchise.
And you wonder if Charlie Whitehurst is that guy or not, or if they go for somebody in the draft. I mean, they'll be picking somewhere in the early 20s, I believe, and or the late teens, and it's a real opportunity for them to possibly grab a guy that they can groom, maybe a Jake Locker who's from that area. I'm not wild about the kid, but I think it's about where he will be available when they pick. Let's just put it that way. So,
what about the Patriots? Kyle, again, a team that was maybe seen as kind of a rebuilding year for them, building the pieces back together, and ended up 14-2, kind of revamping that offense after the departure of Randy Moss. But it really showed that they really couldn't stretch the field. I'm not saying he was the answer, but a Randy Moss-like guy who can stretch his field and give some, I guess, a compliment to those underneath receivers, perhaps.
It seems like these big-time receivers never work out early on in their career. I thought Dez Bryant was tremendous this year early on for the Dallas Cowboys. At the same time, Marcus Colston almost came away Rookie of the Year honors back in 07 for the Saints, and he was a 06, as a seventh-round draft choice. Randy Moss is the exception to the rules, a rookie who dominates. Traditionally, wide receivers are hit or miss when you draft them that early.
Yeah.
I think they need someone who can stretch the field. If I know the Patriots, they'll try and either trade or get somebody in free agency who is a proven guy who can actually stretch the field.
Yeah. What about the last team, Kyle, the Baltimore Ravens? Again, Flacco, they put some more, particularly Anquan Bolden, they put some more weapons around him to kind of make this offense a little bit less vanilla, a little bit less reliant on Ray Rice in the running game, and these guys really didn't show up against Pittsburgh. This
is a tough team to figure out.
Yeah.
You always have to bring your best effort to beat them, but if you do, you got a really good shot. That's what it seems like. It seems to me, I guess if I were running that franchise, I would start to look where you can get a little more of a weapon downfield. As good a receiver as Anquan Bolden is, he's not a flat-out fly deep threat. And Joe Flacco can throw the long ball.
Yeah.
So you got to be able to protect the quarterback, which they do fairly well, and you got to be able to stretch the field. I think defensively they're getting a little bit old as well, so they're not the once dominant defense that they were. So
right. Kyle, let's look ahead to the NFC Championship game. Of course, we have Green Bay going into Chicago, one of the oldest rivalries, of course, in the NFL, and two teams that play twice a year, so there's no real surprises here. Any particular keys to this ballgame?
I think you're going to see whoever plays the best on Sunday is going to win. I think Green Bay's playing a lot better than Chicago is right now.
Sure.
I do. I think they're red hot. I think they're peaking at the right time. I think Chicago is a little scared of them. I do. I know that they can't wait to get them on their home field, Soldier Field, yada, yada. I think that Green Bay's offense is playing at a peak level right now. If Green Bay can establish any semblance of a running game, I think they win this thing going away. If they can't, they better be able to stop Chicago's run. It's going to be kind of like the game they played at the end of the regular season, 10-3, 10-7, 14-10 kind of ball.
Yeah, I think that field and special teams can certainly be a real neutralizer. But as you mentioned, Green Bay found a little bit of a running game late in the season. James Starks stepped up and had a big ball game in their first playoff game. And not as much of a factor in game 2, but still had some balance. Still had
60-something plus yards.
Yeah, still had a number of carries, and they certainly like that. I guess they call it the bone formation, where they use 3 backs or 2 backs in the tight end. And I think you see maybe some play action out of that formation.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to again, if you can get any kind of running game going as the Packers, the way they're throwing the ball right now, I think that really puts them at a distinct advantage against the Bears defense. All they have to do is stop the run and put Cutler in 3rd and long situations, and there's only so many times where he's not going to make a mistake and turn the ball over. So it's one of those games in the snow, in the sleet or whatever with the cold weather, where I think the difference is going to be turnovers or lack thereof. And the team that turns the ball over the least will be the team that wins the game.
Yeah, the forecast is not good. You mentioned Cutler. I mean, as good as he's been the second half of the season at maintaining control and managing the ball game, he threw a couple balls that the Seattle guys really should have had last week.
He's prone to do it, Craig. I mean, history shows us that he eventually will do it, especially in a tight situation. And you can expect this to be a very tight ball game. So I wouldn't be surprised if he throws at least 1 interception. So.
Yeah. Another game that's a rematch of an early game this season. The Jets knocked off Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh. Kind of a gutsy win for this team. They were really struggling. They had lost, I think, a couple in a row, if I remember correctly, and beaten badly, I guess, against New England, and really needed to gut out a win some kind of way. And they got the best of Pittsburgh at Pittsburgh. They'll get them again in Pittsburgh.
It was a statement win at the time. Against a Pittsburgh team that had really found itself was on a little bit of a roll, and the Jets were reeling. Remember, they lost to Chicago. They lost another game at home. Were shut out by the Packers just previous to that, I think, and people were starting to question how good is this Jets team, because at the beginning of the season, they were the talk of the town when it came to Super Bowl contenders. Yeah. And I thought that game really gave them the confidence to finish the season strong, a win against Pittsburgh at Heinz Field when Pittsburgh was playing well. So I think the revenge factor does apply here, though. I think it works. I think Pittsburgh can't wait to get a hold of this team.
What about any particular keys to this ballgame as you see it, Kyle?
Again, the Jets are going to apply pressure, but it's not like you're facing Tom Brady or Peyton Manning. I mean, I know it sounds silly to reference the game's widely recognized 2 best quarterbacks that they've beaten 2 weeks in a row, but neither one of those guys can run out of sight in a day. So you have Ben Roethlisberger, who's going to be able to move around, who's going to be able to break some tackles, and when things break down, he makes plays. Conversely, for the Patriots and the Colts, when things break down, those guys tend to kind of stay put and just throw the ball away. Roethlisberger will make you pay if you come with the blitz and don't actually make the tackle.
How about, Kyle, there's been some talk about the Jets, certainly this game against the Patriots, because of all the hoopla, the talk in the press, was really a very emotional game for this team, trying to prove themselves against this team that had really destroyed them only a few weeks earlier. Is it going to be difficult for them to get back up, even though it is the playoffs, get it back up that kind of an emotional level against Pittsburgh?
Well, Mike Tomlin and company are saying all the right things right now, Craig. They're complimenting the Jets. They're talking about how well they played, what a great team they are. And I guess some of it deservedly so for having gone into Foxborough and beating the Patriots. I think that Pittsburgh is going to take advantage of Mike Wallace's speed. He may give Revis a tad bit of trouble because he's about the fastest guy in the league right now, arguably. So I think they're going to be able to do those types of things. Hines Ward might be able to get free if Wallace can take some of that coverage off of him. If they can do that and get the Jets on their heels a little bit, I think they'll win that game. I think Pittsburgh wins at home. I'll call it 24-14 Pittsburgh.
I'll go Pittsburgh as well. I'll go 27-20 in this one. Let's go back to NFC. Kyle, what do you think you see for the Bears and the Packers?
17-13 Green Bay.
17-13 Green Bay. I'm going to go 20-13 Green Bay. Well, that about wraps it up for the Italian Sports Guys radio show. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back here again next week. Until then, we are
the Italian Sports Guys.
Bada boom.
Bada bing.
Leave the gun.
Take the cannoli, yeah.
How about the meatball over there?
Hey, some marinara sauce. I saw it over there on the other side. Paulie, pour me some more wine. Paulie, where are you?
Hello, Chianti.
Hello, Chianti. I'm thirsty.
Hey, Fredo.
Stay classy, St. Bernard.